Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Sunshine,
you are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ignite Radio Live.
You are with Greg and Stephanie Schlueter over the 5 mighty stations of Annunciation Radio for the Almighty. And boy, am I excited about our guest tonight.
Absolutely. A new author, and they
Yes.
also have a publishing company. Melody Lyons is with us, her with Christopher, parents of 9 children, one of whom is looking down from on high. We want to acknowledge that beautiful little soul. And Melody, just to read you the back of her book, which I'll give you the title, The Sunshine Principle, a radically simple guide to natural Catholic healing. Just on the back, it says, Melody Lyons is a natural health educator and Catholic author pursuing the restoration of Catholic culture through home educating, natural healing, and enthusiastic dishwashing.
Woo, woo.
Compelled by gratitude, she is passionate about bringing the healing power of Jesus Christ to others. That's awesome. I'm going to say it again. Compelled by gratitude, she is passionate about bringing the healing power of Jesus Christ to others. Melody writes about integrated Catholic culture at theessentialmother.com. So that's where you can find her and where you can probably purchase this book, as well as Amazon. And Steph, why don't you just read the top of this? We're just piquing your appetite, folks who are with us today, tuned in and yearning for that fullness, that wholeness in Christ. That's what we're all about. And this wonderful author guest that we have, Steph's going to just read the top of the book, and then we're going to get into an awesome conversation about it.
It's like story time or something.
Absolutely.
I get to keep reading to you. Are you ready to heal?
Yes.
When body and mind are shattered, when fear casts a shadow over joy, when the answer can't be found in a pill, and heaven seems silent, there is hope. The Sunshine Principle is a work that is both a song of the soul and a guide of gritty practicality, a natural approach to healing mind, body, and soul, and what it takes to rise. That's so beautiful.
Awesome.
Great job, Melody. Woo!
Thank you.
So we just tell our listeners, stay with us. You want to hear it before you go rush to order it. So just wait, because I'm sure that got you right there.
Yes, absolutely.
To go order it. But let's listen to Melody
So
first.
we want to formally welcome you. How are you doing today, Melody?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. You guys are such an inspiration to me.
Aw,
I haven't talked to you in so long.
it's
but
been way too long.
I have to tell you, just this, the revival, revival that I just, when I read what you write and listen to what you're saying, I just feel that, just that swelling of hope, and I know that
Praise
is
God.
blessing.
You're awesome, Melody. I'm affirmed. We're affirmed and validated by that. That's awesome. For our
can we
listeners,
get a little personal.
Well, I want to go back a moment and just have a little fun and capture Melody's history, just so you all know who are listening. We have been joined in the journey with Melody and her husband, Christopher Lyons. And Melody, I just want to take us back about 30 years, and I want to play a clip. And I want to ask you after I play this clip, what comes to mind. Here we go for our listeners.
Easy come, easy go. Climbing the stairway to heaven on the wings of rock and roll. If I get there and I find the gates I close, well, hey, easy come, easy go.
My brothers, Luke and Nathan Schlueter, in their later teen years into college, I think, began a Christian rock band with Chris Lyons, the spouse of Melody, and they're very passionate pro-lifers. Chris went to Miami University of Ohio with my brother Nathan, I think maybe a year older or so, and part of the posse, part of a group of very passionate committed to the kingdom, committed to loving other people on that secular campus of Miami, bringing the love wherever we could, and about pro-life in particular. So they have had a band called The Fishermen, and that song, unfortunately, our audio is not working where she can hear the song, but Melody, I played the beginning of the song that Chris wrote, Easy Come, Easy Go. And if you can imagine in your mind that you just heard it, where does that take you?
Oh my goodness. My kids are singing that song now. I mean, I know, you know how that is, but that kind of like that, those memories, those physical audio memories sort of bring all of it back, everything in my life, from the beginning when I first met Chris and re-encountered the Lord, right? and then to the present, where that's finding fulfillment in our vocation. That's it's so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
No, that's awesome. I recall the two of you actually singing in beautiful harmony, whatever songs, maybe the To Encounter Christ, and just for our listeners. So my parents, when we moved from Wisconsin to Cleveland, which was 1986, my parents brought the tech movement to the Cleveland area. It was a phenomenal place to encounter a lot of awesome other teens and parents and build community. And Chris and Melody are part of that. And I do recall both of you singing beautifully. Do you still sing together?
We do. It's not as often, but it's one of those things that it's unifying in our life. So
that's awesome. Does he sing to you? You are the sunshine of my life.
I'll have to add that one.
Given this new book.
That's
so.
right.
Before we go further, let's go back a little bit and just if you could tell a little bit of your story, Melody. We like to proclaim Revelations 12:11. They defeated the enemy, which we see around us everywhere, and unfortunately even in our own homes, marriages, our souls. Let's just keep it real. How do they defeat the enemy? It says in Revelations 12:11, by the blood of the Lamb, which is the Holy Mass, and the word of their testimony. So testimony, really encourage any of you out there listening to know you've got a testimony. It doesn't need to be this big dramatic story, but it's an ongoing journey of accepting Christ, of surrendering lesser things for greater, of walking in the sunshine, walking in the light of God's grace in our lives. So just share with us, Melody, a little bit of your background in coming to really embrace Christ and live in the fullness of our Catholic faith. Sure.
Yeah. I was raised in a Catholic culture because that is the faith that my ancestors, passed on to my family. But by the time it got to me, it really was only cultural. And so I was in Catholic schools for the education, but my family was not practicing. And in fact, I would say that we were raised sort of in defiance of the church. And so I grew up, when I would attend school masses, I would have that defiance. And it was very, a really unholy way to approach the Lord. But I was really searching. I was always searching. And I always had a love for Blessed Mother because she was so beautiful, and even from as a little child, we're drawn to motherhood. We're drawn to that softness and that security. And so I would say that, throughout high school, of course, I just lived a secular life like everybody else around me. And I would say that it almost seemed impossible to pursue goodness. And I wouldn't have been able to say it at the time, but it really was a kind of slavery, a kind of bondage, where even if, a teenager is seeking goodness and holiness, the whole environment is oriented in another direction. And so by the time I met Christopher, I was just deeply, deeply wounded and longing for something greater and something more. And so, of course, he presented the love of Jesus Christ in a way I had really never experienced, and probably also because I was really smitten.
So you're like, what, 15? How old were you at this point?
I was 17.
Okay.
So I was graduating, but I was, I guess, a young graduate.
How did you meet?
Andre Calabretta.
Okay,
go
shout
out to Andre.
And Jen.
So he lived across the street from me, and I guess there was a Bible study going on across the street. And I don't know, I guess a Bible study isn't complete without the girls of the neighborhood.
Right.
I don't know.
In high school, for sure.
Time-honored tradition with our kids also.
That's right. So actually I was awakened by stones at the window. And yeah,
that's great.
And I had not met Chris yet, but they said, why don't we get some pizza? And I said, well, I really have a track meet in the morning. I probably should just go to bed. But they said pizza, and I was there. So, that was kind of the beginning.
So they both went to St. Ignatius. That would be Andre Calabretta and Christopher Lyons, which is in Cleveland, folks. And just trace for us a little bit of that deepening encounter of Christ, which, as you set it up, was kind of cool, is that the love of Christ really corresponded to the unveiling, the apocalypsis. We spoke of Revelations 12:11. That book used to be called Apocalypsis, literally the unveiling of the bride and the Hebrew wedding feast, which defines all of salvation history. So you're given the opportunity to journey in that And I do want to punctuate what was a first for Steph and I at your wedding, but lead us up to the point of, engagement and marriage, and even trace for us a little bit of the children.
So my background was New Age, just basically paganism and feminist. I would call that actually a religion. Mm-hmm. So it was all intertwined. So I had a lot of defiance. I had a lot of anger. What Chris presented was really a freedom, that I hadn't known, a freedom of spirit and mind. And so it was intellectual, in that we would go back and forth with these topics. Of course, I was pro-choice, and he just dealt with my objections or our conversations very gently and patiently, and sort of just, he's so logical and smart that he very simply would just sort of state the truth. And my whole argument, which was full of many, many words, would just unravel, and so he slowly introduced me to the truth. And as my eyes opened, the scales fell and my heart just began to expand. And I realized that there was that love and that acceptance in Jesus Christ that I had never, not in my memory anyway, been able to fall back into such a cushion of peace. Mm-hmm. And then the transformation really fully came about actually at Tech. Awesome. That conversion, that conversion moment. It was, of course, a process, but it was at adoration, naturally.
Right.
And we were all kneeling before the Blessed Sacrament and praise and adoration. And there came like a voice, you just sometimes have those moments of clarity. And it is as if the Lord is speaking, and I'm sure that he is. And I had this question presented to me, do you believe? And it was, this is either God, the creator of the universe and your soul, or it's not, and it's all a lie. Mm-hmm. And at that moment I was given a choice, and, it was all grace. And I knew, and everything in my life really just changed from that point on.
So beautiful.
That's so awesome. So your courtship will speed it up a little bit. Obviously, you grew deeper in love with God, as well as discovering that Genesis 1:27, in his image, he made them male and female, to literally live out that awesome identity and relationship to Chris. And at your wedding, Steph and I were dating. What, Steph? You're tapping my leg.
Let her talk first.
Oh, was there more? Okay, I just didn't know how much.
Yeah. And that's my space.
All right, go ahead.
If I could just insert my little memory of your wonderful husband, Christopher Lyons. I think I met him through a mutual Tech friend. We were in Erie, Pennsylvania, and he actually came and helped out with a couple retreats, confirmation retreats, and some other things. And so I got to know him in that way. So I can just affirm, I want to underscore, Melody, what you're saying. Obviously, most of our listeners have never met him, but he does have such a powerful way to present truth with zero compromise or sugarcoating, and yet he does it with such gentleness. And I think that's where the gentleness and charity comes from, is that he really wants you to know the truth, to experience that. And so that struck me really from when I first met him, that especially in these confirmation retreats, and in Erie, Pennsylvania, confirmation was in high school. And so you had a lot of these kids who were so hardened and, even like you described yourself as defiant. And it was like, those were his favorites, like bring it on, and just that heart. So I just want to proclaim and thank the good Lord for the heart that he gave Chris in being able to be used as his instrument in that way. I think too often we, fall upon personalities of this is or that's, and it needs to be this way. And we really need to embrace how God made people, and that's okay. And he uses that to draw them closer. So you got to experience that obviously firsthand and in a very different way. So jumping ahead then, you guys fell in love, got engaged. We were blessed at that point, and then I'll let you dive back in, Melody. I just want to steal this before Greg does. So I don't know how I got to be part of this grouping, but two good friends, Jim and Diane Gallagher, who were not married at the time, and then Greg and myself, who had started dating a month or so prior, we sang at your wedding.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And it just a beautiful, beautiful wedding. I just remember thinking that you were one of the most beautiful brides I had ever seen.
Aw.
And if we can, like, hopefully it's not too much information, the old TMI, at your wedding reception outside toward the end of it was when Greg and I had our first kiss. I don't know if we ever shared that with you.
No, I did not know that.
Yes.
But I've goosebumps.
Yeah. So, just the inspiration of that incredible love and witness must have, been a catalyst for something. But so we think often with fondness when we think of you guys as that very precious first moment of that. So
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Thanks so much. I was choked up a little bit, Melody, as you were describing that experience before Jesus in the Eucharist and how he is the evangelist. And the best we can do as John the Baptist is decrease and him increase, is point the way like our Blessed Mother, do whatever he tells you. And that's what the best of any program does, is points us to Christ and makes that encounter full and rich. You have 9 children, 1 in heaven. So just trace for us, a little bit of what have those years been like?
We started our family. I guess we found out we were pregnant 9 months after we were married.
Yay.
And we were in South Bend, Indiana, where Chris was at the University of Notre Dame in the doctoral program there. And so we were kind of separated from family a little bit, but, we had our cocoon. I never imagined that we would have so many children. And now, I know you know how this is. People are like, wow, you have so many kids. But, when you're sitting around the living room, having family prayer, all of a sudden it seems like, oh, who are we missing?
Right.
Are we missing somebody? And all of your children are there. And it's like, oh, it just doesn't seem like it's everybody because it seems like so few people. And every single child is so known to us.
Right.
Just wanted to punctuate in your stating that the contrast with teenage Melody Lyons and feminist thought, and then coming full circle through his beautiful redemptive love into a place where having children is not, as you say, the world looks at it. It is a joyful sacrifice. Both of those words important. You came to a point of recognizing that and embracing it and proclaiming it.
So we're going to skip a whole heck of a lot because we do want to dive into your beautiful new project of your book, The Sunshine Principle. And again, the subtitle, A Radically Simple Guide to Natural Catholic Healing. I can't tell you how excited I am to dive into this, in particular with our daughter, Catherine, who has experienced and is experiencing a number of different health challenges, and just really feel, as I've passed the title along to others, I'm sure you've gotten a bit of a spike on Amazon, because when I shared it with other people, they were so excited to have this to turn to see what was in it for them. So tell us about what led up to it, wherever you want to go with it, Melody. The time is yours.
Sure. Yeah. What led up to it was, 20 years of motherhood burdened by an unknown enemy. And for the majority of that time, I thought it was just me. I thought I was just like the worst mom ever and a failure as a human being, really. As I watched everybody else, all the other moms, going about their lives and doing multiple things in one day or doing multiple things in one week, and I was really just like clinging just to every step, to every moment, just praying, asking God just to get me through the day. I thought it was me. I thought I was a loser. And in reality, I was really sick. And I didn't know for a long, long time. So ultimately, what a gift to be able to come out on the other side, still with these challenges, because I'm not cured. I still have this this battle ahead of me, and then I'm going to die. So that's just the way it goes.
Can you describe for our listeners some of the things that you struggled with physically and emotionally?
Yeah, it was pretty much every symptom that I can think of, every body system. I was dealing with autoimmune crisis, which I was not familiar with. I didn't understand how it affects the body. So I was having everything from, joint degeneration and inflammation, severe headaches, stomach problems. There was one point where I couldn't eat anything but mushy cereal all day long. And every time I ate, I would end up in bed because of the severe spasming. I had, heart involvement. I had just so many things. And they all seemed to be separate issues. And so I would go back to the doctor, and that's embarrassing. Right. Like just to take up family resources, because I'd leave every time, and every doctor would give me their prescription or pat me on the shoulder and say, "You're just tired." And it was always inconclusive, and always seemed to be something that maybe I was in my head, or they thought was in my head. And then I would get the bill, Right.
Right.
That was not in your head, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, $600, to have a rheumatologist tell me that I was just tired, that's really difficult. And so the extreme fatigue, and then the depression, which comes with just this overwhelming physical suffering, with pain, with the fatigue, with the feelings that come with the inadequacy and not being able to love my family and serve my family the way I wanted to, but also that chemical reaction, which comes with pain and in physical challenges. So, very much like trying to walk through life with a giant refrigerator on your back, and knowing all these good and true things about motherhood and about vocation, and just feeling I was falling short, not just every day, but, every moment.
So that was background of your challenge. I have to just make maybe a lighter note in the midst of that and ask you the question, knowing Chris in his teen years, did he ever graduate from the one food group diet of sugared cereal?
Yeah, he's expanded slightly.
Do remember being at his house. Remember the chili, certainly also, but Chris was a voracious consumer at all hours of the day of his sugared cereal diet. So I have a warm, soft spot in my heart for him, as do my brothers, in knowing him well. We're on different ends of the spectrum a little bit with diet, but he very much supports everything.
That's great.
Everything that I do. So
Melody, you really set up, which I didn't know all that. We had been out of touch. I think your family, we connected a few times in the having kids years. And to hear all that, though, I mean, I'll just say right out of the gates, I feel like how important it is to share these struggles just to any who are out there, and the blessing of moms connected or dads connected and processing. And, I think the malady of today, whether it be ecclesial or political, is that things hidden in darkness come to light. It is a great act of grace to speak candidly and vulnerably about challenges, and you've taken that full blown in writing this book and wanting to, if you will, reach others with some answers, some descriptions, some solutions. So trace with us then. So to navigate that, obviously there's been some healing in your life. Maybe tell us what steps put you in a place where the light was coming down in the sunshine principle.
Well, in most cases where there's traumatic healing, whether it be mind, body, or soul, there's often hitting rock bottom first. And that's what happened physically to me. I ended up in such a desperate situation that I was really willing to listen to anything and to try anything. I had already been to all of the doctors. I was absolutely despairing at the idea of having to go back and pay more money, and give more time to just have more of the same. And so I was finally open to listening to some of my friends who said, "Have you tried dietary changes?" And it's just, that always kind of annoyed me before that. It's like telling somebody who's struggling with weight loss, well, you just need to eat less and exercise,
Right.
There's a whole lot more there. And But finally I was willing to listen. And I thought, well, I could go back to the allergist. I don't know. I could go to a dietitian, and what would they tell me? Well, they'd probably tell me to do an elimination diet so I could find out maybe if there was some issue there. And I thought, well, I can do that. And I don't have to pay anybody any money to do that. And so I just jumped right in, and I did a radical lifestyle change that was, boy, that was really difficult. It was a really difficult change. But what happened was that within a matter of days, my life changed.
Days?
Days. And
what did you do?
Like 3 or 4 days. I eliminated everything. I researched and eliminated everything in my diet that could possibly be inflammatory.
So sugars, greens, all that alcohol.
Yes. And anything that is an additive that I didn't understand, didn't know what it was doing in my food, soy, I made this comprehensive list based on everything I found on the internet that might be a contributing factor. I ended up with this very skinny list of foods.
Grass.
And grass. Exactly. Exactly. And then I was hungry, and I felt really, I didn't feel that great. My body was trying to figure out how to transition from constantly eating easily processed sugars to what I had shifted to, which was basically, proteins and healthy fats and good carbohydrates like broccoli. So, but what happened was that I had, for the first time, I don't know, in 2 decades, I had a relief from this terrible joint inflammation.
Wow.
I found I had a surgically repaired knee from a sports injury, and I hadn't been able to sit back on my heels ever since I'd had that surgery. And one day I was changing the baby's diaper and on the floor and kneeling, and I just sat back.
Wow.
I sat back. And so there was just this, as the layers were kind of stripped away and my body was sort of freed from this constant stress of whatever foods I was eating, it was just uncovered. It was revealed, like, oh, well, wait a minute. This is more myself. I remember this. I remember feeling healthy. I remember not having this pain. And that was absolutely life-changing.
What point, if you don't mind me interrupting, I apologize. In your family, you have 9 children. How many years into marriage are you at this point?
10 years ago. So,
okay.
We've been married for 24 years.
So your oldest is 14, 13 years old at this point,
yeah,
and you have whatever, 4 or 5 children that you're trying to manage. You're a stay-at-home mom, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and trying to homeschool and do all of those things, and it was exhilarating, this experience of being able to just function a little bit more. My mind started to clear, and that was, I have to say, that was so significant, to be able to feel and think like myself.
Right.
For so long, and to be able to say, oh my goodness, this was not really me. This was, it was something that was happening to me, but it wasn't my identity. I'm not pain. I'm not worthless. I'm not failure. And then to go through, of course, this was a much longer process of identifying all of those ways in which I really needed to accept forgiveness and extend forgiveness to myself, and just have that clarity, like who I am not and who I am, and give that to the Lord and accept his vision of who I am, really for the first time, and start letting go of some of that tremendous grief.
So your book acknowledges really the various dimensions of wholeness, and folks who are listening, whole, W-H-O-L-E, is almost synonymous with holy, to be holy, to be whole in God. And you're describing, if you will, a behavioral aspect to this, where you recognized something in the chemical, physiological, human realm, and you're carrying it over into an understanding of how it affected the way you thought. You became aware, perhaps, of areas in your life spiritually now.
We're an integration of mind and body and spirit, and God designed us that way. He didn't design us with this, we're just this spirit that's just sort of hanging out for a while in this this burden of a body. We truly are integrated. And when what I didn't really understand when I was going through all of that is the connection between the health of my body and the health of my mind, and then how that also impacted the spiritual life. And so, for example, when somebody's experiencing a chemical depression, that's something beyond just, well, I'm not praying enough, or, I just need to love God more. And certainly those elements are important, and we can experience that healing directly from Christ in certain circumstances. But this is how he created us under his normal circumstances. This is how he loves us, and this is how he designed us. And so if we have a physical burden that's interfering with our ability to be healthy mentally, we also have that temptation towards despair and an outlook in our spiritual life, which can quickly become a disconnection from God. And so, with writing this book, especially, I was really thinking of the people who went through what I went through, which you have that dark night of the soul, which is often precipitated by the body. And this idea that, we will always have suffering, but some of the suffering, some of the crosses that we carry are not really ours. And I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but
totally with you.
They're things, they're burdens we have picked up, and they're not of Christ,
Right.
Like if we're living a lifestyle that is opposed to his will for us and opposed to our natural design, then we have picked up a cross that's not, that's not holy. And of course it can be used for his glory, but we're kind of carrying them and hugging them and saying, and praying, and offering up this suffering, when in the meantime, we could be setting down that cross and then using our free arms, to pick up the burdens that he really asks us to carry.
Right.
One phrase we use to punctuate that I've used often, the Cecil B. DeMille, the producer of the Ten Commandments, really said, we can't break the Ten Commandments or the natural law. We can only break ourselves against it. And at our age, 40s, 50s, we become aware of the debris that we've inherited by decisions we've made, and in some cases others have made against us, that validate there is a way, a truth, and a life. Christ has paved it, and it is a way not of constraint, but of freedom, of truth. And anybody who tries to go 60 miles an hour and think that they can go off the lines, go off-roading and into the berm, well, they're going to be smashed. And really, I think this describes perhaps the last 3, 4, 5 decades. I can create my own truth. I can create my own landscape. I can do whatever I want. We see it in Supreme Court decisions. Define yourself. We'll go with that. See where that is going to lead you in pursuing your desires. Let those be the validation of morality. Your desires are your definition. You go with that. And in its aftermath, we are seeing a whole lot of debris. So I appreciate the heart piece there that you're describing for any who are listening, that a lot of the suffering that we're facing, physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, is a result of being in rebellion against what God revealed to be true.
Yes. Yeah. And what does the enemy want for us? He wants us to be depressed and anxious and, overwhelmed by failure and discouragement and sickness and pain, so that the vision that God has for us is obscured. He wants us destroyed, and we have to be sure and careful that we're not complicit in that destruction. And so observing our surroundings and the things that we do and the ways that we speak, the ways that we treat our body, is this consistent with God's design for us? And is this going to lead us closer to Christ? And I would absolutely say that there's a moral component to the way that we care for our bodies.
So in short order, we are so blessed to have Melody Lyons with us, new author, The Sunshine Principle. You can find it at their website, which is theessentialmother.com, or on amazon.com. And they also founded a publishing company, Intinction Press, which is kind of exciting. She and her husband, Chris, raising 8 beautiful children with a little help of a little one up in heaven looking down from on high. Melody, if you were to describe for somebody, I only had 1 minute to explain, what is the Sunshine Principle?
So the Sunshine Principle is essentially that God has arranged everything in the universe in consideration of everything else, and that the greatest potential for healing occurs when we align our behaviors with God's natural, biological, and spiritual laws.
Amen.
And that the image of the sun, the truth of this is so obvious that it's like the sun. You know, every aspect of life and faith stands like the sunshine, unfailing, necessary, powerful, but so often taken for granted. And, you know, I think we have sort of long since ceased to be awed by that in many cases. And we've forgotten that it was made for us, and that all of creation was designed for our benefit. So this book is not a complicated representation of the truth, but merely a gentle and joyful reminder, hopefully, you know, that God has set all things in motion in consideration of us, whom he loves.
So you say the word joyful, even the cover, you'll check it out when you order your copy, listeners. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And just, you know, it makes you joyful looking at it. Do you know
she designed it? Did you know that?
Did you design the
did.
cover? I believe
I did.
It's beautiful. It really is.
Thank you.
And I also love, again, not having read it completely yet, but the it is also filled with different saint quotes and scripture passages and different quotes from the catechism. And it's
Facebook posts.
It's
Yes,
beautifully,
that's right.
beautifully positioned throughout. And it just supports, right, and encourages all that is true and good that you're saying about how we are designed, how the universe is designed. And for our local listeners also, there is a short story, I think it's in the section on stories of healing, which would make sense. Father Nathan Cromley is in there, who is a Toledo native, Melody. I don't know if you realize that, but he's very beloved here. Yeah. So Father Nathan's in the book if you need a little extra, you know, encouragement. But I just feel like this book is so needed right now in so many ways. And so the Lord's timing is always perfect. Certainly I say that for our situation and our family, but I feel like you have people getting more and more into, you know, the yoga stuff and new age, you know, the crystals and more than ever. Like when we were, you know, you had mentioned new age stuff back in high school. That's when it's, you know, it was certainly prevalent then, but it seems like it's just resurged so much, right?
And it dominates.
Yes.
It dominates the natural health scene. It overwhelmingly, even among Christian practitioners.
Yes.
I have to say that, and you know this, Chris knows this, our whole community that you describe in a substantial time of our lives around college age, just blessed, kindred with you and many others who are doing amazing things. Eric Salmons, you know, Menk Houses, you know, so many dynamic people have emerged from this doing great things. But we really inherited an image of a loving God and an understanding of love that it has a contour and a shape. And I think we also had a healthy critique, perhaps of church authorities that, number one, lacked humility in saying, the leaders saying, we're on a journey, I'm not there, join me along this journey. I think we're experiencing a culture that has abandoned any semblance of faith because fundamentally we yearn to be loved and we yearn to love. You know, the essence of our being, and that is God who is love. And so what I really see in this book is an honest, if you will, filling out the shape of that love for the human person. The glory of God is man fully alive. So another question, Melody, is you're busy. I mean, you're a mother of 8 children. What prompted you? What validations did you get? What forums told you this is good, this is right, you need to write a book?
The book is my testimony. I mean, fundamentally, you know, it's my testimony to the greatness of God, who allowed me to suffer and to heal so that I might know him better and fall into the arms of divine love. And it's my testimony to others because I see this suffering all around me, you know, and I want people to know that God wishes for you to be healed in his time, and that there is hope of rising, and that he does not leave. You know, he doesn't leave. This is relational. He loves us so much. Just, you know, everything you were saying, I agree with. And there's a freedom here, you know, that we can offer to each other that goes beyond death, because we're all going to die and we're all going to suffer. But there is a freedom in Christ, which ultimately, like I said, the book some people will read it as just being about, health and healing. Ultimately, it's about a conversion to the heart of Jesus Christ, and being able to extend a hand to those, including my family, and my children and their futures, and wherever that takes them, to be able to extend that hand into the darkness, and say it's okay. Let's walk to the door. Let's walk to the door of possibility here, and you're going to be okay. And so I guess, how this is when you have that testimony. You've been given these gifts, and it seems an injustice not to be able to share it and proclaim it.
Truth.
And so I think that really is that is at the root of what the book is. And then also, the practical steps to be able to help people and answer all of the emails, because when I was sharing my journey and all the steps along the way online, I was just getting constant emails, and of course, within the restrictions of my vocation, I can't answer them all the way I want to.
Right.
So the book is sort of the email that I couldn't send.
Yeah,
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love that. I love that. How long did it take you to put together, Melody?
Well, I would have said 2 years, but because of COVID,
Right.
we were
That
pushing
word.
closer to 3. So, but
Wow.
actually, the majority of the writing was about 2 years, and most of it was done in the middle of my kitchen with all of the people running around me. So
That's
Which
beautiful.
gives it the grace and
Absolutely. I want to dive into that important note. You say writing it with the little ones around you, you're homeschooling, you're at home. And Stephanie and I have often kind of summarized one of the greatest challenges for Catholics, Christians today, is between knowing it and professing it, and then this chasm and living it. So I guess what I want you to maybe share with us is give us a portrait of how your journey and this content in particular plays out in the very real reality of marriage and home. How have you seen it shape your family?
Oh, it's been interesting because most of my journey, they were oblivious, and I spent a lot of time trying to be virtuous, but also feeling upset, and I guess feeling disappointed and grumpy, and overwhelmed, and just the sensory experience of having a large family and the noise can get really overwhelming, especially when you're not feeling well. And so there's a lot that I don't necessarily know about how did it form my family, and I can't go there too often because I get upset,
Sure.
and I think about loss and I regret, but I don't know exactly how they were formed by those things which I consider to be negative and a failure on my part. But the transformation has been interesting because a couple of my children in particular have undergone their own healing because of my awareness.
That's awesome.
And I've been able to serve them and help them in a way that I couldn't have if I didn't understand these things about my own health. And I'm not going to go through their stories, but I get choked up every time because we were literally able to save a child's life.
Wow.
And transform others. So they're each kind of absorbing. The little ones don't understand at all,
Right.
but also has impacted the way that I take care of them. And of course, some of my kids are now reading my book. So
What kind of response are you getting from that? I hate to say it. Too many Catholic leaders leave it at the door. They go out, they're on the stage, they write the books, they come back into the homes, though, ask the kids, ask the wife, where is that person who wrote that book and is on the stage? So how does that, I'm pressing you to maybe share something pretty candid and vulnerable here, but how does it play out under your roof?
Well, I think it's completely relational. And I think it's important. I feel it's important to pursue that relationship in the healthiest way possible, which means that, we're ready with the apology. We're ready to extend mercy. We're ready to live the gospel. And so I do talk a lot with my kids about the imperfections. And of course, we experience them in the institutional church and in our communities. And going back to this idea of relationship with Christ and truth and our purpose, like, why are we gospel livers? Why are we Christians if what we do isn't going to be extending the gospel to other people and being a source of healing for those people. So within the home, I mean, they know more than anybody what a hot mess I am. You know, I mean,
A beautiful hot mess.
it's I'm
Redemption's
we're
in
open
it.
about
I'm
it.
sure they
Yeah.
experienced
Yeah.
the redemption in your
And that's the
honesty,
power of
opening
it.
the door. We're human. We need Christ. I'm sure it gives them permission to be honest about their own, brokenness. Folks, you're tuned into Ignite Radio Live with Greg and Stephanie Schluter, and very blessed to have a beloved sister in Christ, Melody Lyons. She and her husband, Chris, and family we've known for many decades. It's been far too long for us to be together, but she's written this awesome book, which is an important part of her life, her own personal testimonial of healing, The Sunshine Principle. You can find it at their site, theessentialmother.com. With a little bit of time that we have left, Melody, I'm going to invite you to take the gloves off a little bit. You didn't know I was going to ask this, and I don't know what I'm going to get, but as a formed Catholic pursuing disciple of Jesus Christ, just can you give us your own reflection from your own journey, from your book? How are you processing the COVID challenge?
I think because of my experience with so many years of suffering and fear of death and having to reconcile with that, when COVID first came onto the scene, I was not afraid. And it wasn't that I don't get anxious about illness. I certainly do, or that I don't worry about other people. I simply think I was better equipped, not a better person necessarily, but just better equipped by my life circumstances to be reconciled with the inevitability of death and the primacy of the spiritual,
Right.
our
Amen.
eternity of the spiritual life. And I do think, again, it's because I had already had to reconcile so many times with that reality that it wasn't anything necessarily virtuous on my part. It was that I was just already in that mindset. And I find it very concerning. What I'm seeing now, and a good priest friend of ours just recently said, he said, this has exposed our lack of faith.
Mhm.
Even among our clergy, we're seeing this primacy of fear rather than of faith.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that we're denying. Obviously, my book is about largely about physical healing. So it's not a denial that we need to take care of each other. But we need to do it in a more Mother Teresa way,
Right.
rather than like governmental, mandate kind of way. We need to be able to have access to each other,
Amen.
to be able to hold each other.
Amen.
And so I'm forgetting what your original question was. I'm kind of just wandering, but that's a little bit of my perspective. And I want my children to retain normal. What is normal? I don't want the new normal for them, because I want them.
The new
I want
normal
them-
is not normal.
Yeah. Well,
It's not normal. And maybe, like what you guys do so beautifully, I think not even just a new normal, but an elevated normal. Like,
Amen.
let's work on a revival, let's be better. We have this opportunity to look back and see what normal was, see what bureaucrats are trying to make the new normal, or even, some evildoers are trying to make the new normal, and bring the gospel alive, and have this revival again.
So if I were to speak of masks in particular as we're winding down here, and Stephanie and I want to be formed by our church and conscience, which attends to truth, right? Empirical truth, factual truth, and bring the moral principles that we have to bear, not just for us, but obviously it's a communal consideration. We don't doubt that there are notable health things that merit our concern. We don't doubt that in the very beginning, there was still a lot of confusion, and depending on the day of the week, right? Hour of the day, and what source you have, we still don't know what that landscape looks like. But I come up with this, that I feel like there's an unnecessary obstruction of relational and spiritual intimacy. I'll say that again. I find in general, with due note of those who are in a demographic, a profile that is seriously at risk, that seriously is in that 0.0012% of those who have this disease that have died from COVID alone. That's what the stat is from CDC, 0.0012% of those who've died, that that wearing masks, I'm just stating this, open to the conversation, open to the debate, which I think that is a huge plus in this atmosphere, to respectfully hear others and to dialogue about it. Find me on Facebook. I've communicated these things and have received the good wisdom and feedback from others. But my evolution of thought has brought me to this point. I find masks in general, mandated, publicly obscuring relational and spiritual intimacy that is having a opportunity cost loss, a loss of connectivity to each other as physical beings, face to face and interacting without fear. I do think it's seeping into our system. It's seeping into the way we interact with one another, the way we think about one another. And wouldn't the enemy love to weaponize that whole thing? Wouldn't he love to politicize the whole thing? And I think it is a challenge. I'll be honest. It's a challenge to distance myself objectively from those who want to use this for gain in that way. But just for us, like I'll say, for our One Heart, One City events, we respect social distancing, people want to wear masks, etc. They're outdoors. Of the 9 events, again, at all of our advertising saying we respect social distancing. If you want to keep your distance, wear a mask. Of all those 9 events, not one person wore a mask in the public, not one. Or a few kind of distanced themselves a little bit. But it's interesting that through the duration of the prayer, through the duration of the encounter experiences that we had, the healing that took place, the primacy of Christ, something powerful, I think, took place to cause people to cross the Rubicon from fear into a sense of faith. And I add the word reasonably so, based upon the same empirical data that caused many restaurants to remain open, same empirical data. I think we really need to ask the question, in our churches, do we need to get rid of this dispensation and get people back to the sacramental grace from which many, many are languishing? My little monologue, your thoughts?
I'm in full agreement. I've just seen, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the people who are living a little bit more freely are experiencing healing and restoration, and are becoming even more free in mind, body, and spirit. And those who are kind of, staying tucked away are increasing in fear. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that in a general sort of way, but I think we can see it on social media, especially. Mm-hmm. This division is really just striking. When we first went back to Mass, we decided that we would not have our children masked, and that we would approach the altar, freely. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, there were a lot of other people who chose to do the same. Awesome. And reflecting on it later that evening, it was the most healing experience that I had during the entire quarantine. I just wept. It was such a small thing, but it wasn't small. We were seeing each other. We're relational. This is everything that you said so perfectly that I don't want to have to repeat, because you said it just right. But there is a healing component here of being able to interfere with what is separating us from each other and from what is separating us from a proper understanding of our relationships. And I think, like, even in the book, I want people to understand that in order to make a change, because we're convinced that we've done this before, we've tried with our health or this or that. And what is our experience? Our experience is that we've failed in the past. And so we approach healing moments with trepidation because we know that we're going to screw it up. In order to make these changes, we have to interfere. We have to interfere with old habits, with old patterns, with old way of thinking. We have to burst through and literally reorient our life so that all of our actions reflect Christ. And I think it's the same way with all of this, with the masking and everything. If we want something to change, if we don't just want to die in fear and just shrivel spiritually and mentally and physically, and allow our loved ones to die without us, our presence there, without the sacraments and all of these things, we're going to have to interfere somehow and do something bold, do something that makes us uncomfortable and other people uncomfortable.
Amen. Thank you for that, Melody. You are listening to Ignite Radio Live with Greg and Stephanie Schlueter as we come in for a landing here. And our dear, wonderful, amazing guest, Melody Lyons, author of The Sunshine Principle, A Radically Simple Guide to Natural Catholic Healing.
Go buy it, folks.
Check it out. I know my limitations in this vocation, and I've seen too many people get sucked in to the internet in various ways, but so I know that I would be a voracious blog reader if I opened that door. So I want you to know that yours, I think, is the only one that I deliberately seek out somewhat regularly to read. I'm always inspired and edified by what you have to say, and the great gift that you have in the way that you say it. You really, really, really are a treasure, Melody.
At
so thank you.
theessentialmother.com. Yes. Thanks so much for being with us tonight on Ignite Radio Live. And if you want to see past episodes, we just encourage you to check it out at igniteradiolive.com. And as we are approaching the end of the year, we just do avail our mission and movement, our desire to see the kingdom alive in marriage and family, to your support and partnership with us. We do rely on your prayers, yes, and financial support. So would you please just prayerfully consider supporting us? It's so awesome, whether it's $5 or $500, especially if you can contribute on a monthly basis. You can easily find that at massimpact.us, donate. We do pray earnestly for each one of you, and it is touching lives, many, many lives. You've heard the stories here. And so we just ask again, just humbly come before you, ask if you'd please support us in this mission, nonprofit mission. We're going to conclude tonight's program with Matthew's song going back 30 years. This is a track off of the album from The Fishermen, which included my brother Nathan, brother Luke, and Chris Lyons in their late teens. Very pro-life Christian album. And this corresponds to an abortion clinic in the Cleveland area where we regularly prayed at. Very powerful lyrics. Check this out, and let's have kindred hearts for an end to abortion in this country and healing of our nation.
Outside, the child mortuary, the saints all gather to pray. Some in lines with rosaries and picket signs, they prepare for another day. Another girl enters the big glass doors. She's trying to fight back her fear, and the prayers keep rising to the Holy One amidst the silence and the tears. And the cars outside keep passing by, and the saints and the angels cry, how long must we live in this life? How many more children must die? How many more children must die? Oh, America, home of the free. Your hands are covered with blood. Oh, America, oh, don't you see? Have we forgotten how to love? Why do we ignore the real enemy of this war? Do you know what you're fighting for? We will never win until we put our trust in Him and put on the armor of the Lord. And the cars outside keep passing by, and the saints and the angels cry, how long must we live in this life? How Outside, a child mortuary. The saints are gathered to pray. Some in lines with rosaries and picket signs. They prepare for another day. The police station is just across the street, and the murder goes on before their eyes. In a big church, oh, it's right next door, but they have closed their eyes. Oh, please don't close your 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 eyes.